Welcome to Freedom Fest. Again, I have the privilege and pleasure to have George Gilder here with me. Again,
Back.
yes, exactly.
Back with Barbara.
Thank you, George. It is wonderful to have you with us. George is an author, an investor, a business person, and a speaker at Freedom Fest. I think at each and every Freedom Fest you've
I
been
think
speaking.
almost. Maybe I missed the first one. I think we both missed the first one.
Exactly.
It wasn't real, was it?
Yeah, exactly.
It was just Mark's experimental initiative, but it's.
But what I would like to talk with you today, and not only ask you whether you will join us for the Free Market Roadshow in Europe, this extensive tour crossing not only 38 countries in less than 3 months. I know you don't have the time, but you know.
I may. I don't know. I got to write my newsletters, but I can write them in Europe as well as they got internet still in Europe, or is the internet is becoming a little frail in.
But in Germany, you know, it's kind of.
Sabine told me 1 megabit a second. We used to celebrate 1 megabit a second.
Yes.
1 megabit a second can capture all my profound wisdom and
now we need
prophecy.
more. These days we need more. But George, you are a person who has lived in the finance industry, has worked in the finance industry, has been involved in money and finance. So, what is your take? What is going on these days on the markets? We know the U.S. markets are pretty strong. But Europe is not doing so well. How would you explain that?
Well, 70% of the market cap of global companies is American, and it's chiefly of ventures that spearheading artificial intelligence. And I believe it's at a mature phase. It's topping out. Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, all that array of companies which dominate the list of leading companies are at their peak and really their climax. And I believe that there's a new paradigm emerging that will overthrow this gigantic cathedral of information tools, becoming ever more complex, consuming ever more energy, becoming ever more centralized to the extent that a few hundred data centers are alleged to accomplish all the computation that the world needs. And
if I may interrupt, if it's only a few data centers, will that not be a problem?
It's a problem. I think it's I began writing about technology back in the early 1980s. And before that, I experienced the IBM era. And the IBM era was, they believed that initially, Thomas Watson believed that 14 IBM mainframes could satisfy all the world's computing needs. And later it became hundreds of IBM mainframes, complemented by the bunch, Burroughs, National Cash Register, Univac, control data, just a few. And we're back in that era again, where we're imagining that a few giant data centers comprise a singularity that can, it's sort of a new divine visitation of information tools. And I believe it's going to be blown to smithereens over the next decade, that a whole new distributed model is going to arise, chips are going to be banished. We aren't going to have chips anymore. This whole idea that everything that you take a bowl of silicon, you slice it into thousands of wafers, and then you slice the wafers into thousands of little shards, and then you distribute the shards around the world to be encapsulated in plastic packages and connected to printed circuit boards, and that whole model, which is epitomized by the gigantic data center, is coming to an end with, I believe, graphene is the key material that's going to enable the new era of distributed computation, where this is Freedom Fest. And we got 8 billion human brains, each one as densely connected as the entire internet. And information tools succeed to the extent that they complement these 8 billion human brains, each of which operates on 12 to 14 watts of power compared to gigawatts and terawatts for the internet. And I think that graphene, we now have perfect graphene semiconductors on wafer scale, on silicon carbide wafers, and they're 1,000 times faster than silicon. They operate in the terahertz rather than the gigahertz, and they use almost no heat at all. They're the coolest technology invented. They don't consume energy in volume, and they allow a distribution of intelligence around the globe, and that I think is the
next
future.
level, the next
paradigm.
level, and the next growth creating engine.
And I tell about a lot of it in A Life After Capitalism, which is my, I believe that we need a new revitalization of capitalist theory, which derives ultimately from Hayek's great essay on knowledge as wealth. And I really am trying to consummate that information theory of economics that Hayek launched with that famous essay back in 1949 or whatever it was.
The dispersed knowledge of this amount. And then later on, he also reminded us in his Nobel speech in 1974, when he was talking also about the pretense of knowledge in society, because there we have another issue that is these days very relevant. We have media who pretend to know without researching, they don't go into depth. And then we have politicians who just copy-paste things.
Well, the politicians have taken over money and thus falsified many of the signals in the marketplace. So we have this kind of spurious marketplace of really deceptive information, the sort of the propaganda of production. And it's the brave new world, which is the subject of this Freedom Fest.
So let's take a step back and let's look at Hayek. And why would Hayek talk about the dispersed knowledge that is in our society? Is it because he believed in the individual's ability to innovate, to create, to get out of poverty and to grow? Or why do you think Hayek
He believed that. But he also believed that knowledge is not singular, it's dynamic, it's constantly changing, and it's dispersed intrinsically, that it can't be summed up in a singularity and incarnated in some new divine artificial intelligence. That would have seemed completely alien to the individual and model of Hayek with knowledge associated with individual human minds intrinsically, and that was the foundation really of Austrian economics, and it's why the Austrian school prevails today. I believe it prevails through information theory. And that's what I explain in Life After Capitalism, how that those insights of Hayek and von Mises and von Bavarik and Menger and all these
Especially
figures.
Menger.
Yeah, Menger was the founder, and that all these really were consummated in information theory, which defines information itself as surprisal, as unexpected events, unexpected tokens of change. And this is, and the conflict between Hayek's view of knowledge and the view of knowledge that prevails in artificial intelligence is dramatic. In artificial intelligence, they believe that knowledge is data and it's singular. Well, Hayek understood that knowledge was discovery and was surprisal and unexpected discovery. So improbable knowledge is more valuable than the average correct answer that AI delivers.
So the individual thinks and acts, as Hayek said, the methodological individualism.
Yeah, methodological individualism is another key phrase.
Exactly, what is truly important. But
that prohibits a singular, unique knowledge. It means that knowledge is constantly a process of individual discovery
and of interaction.
Right. It has a collective dimension because it's a fabric of individual interactions, and which AI has kind of stumbled upon that model with its map. But it wants a singular map that ends at some slices of time, and not a map of continual change and discovery, where old knowledge often gets completely stated and rediscovered and reinvented.
Can we take one step back to your book, Life After Capitalism? Would we have to be afraid that we will lose capitalism as, the protection of property rights?
The protection of property rights is vital. But the problem with the prevailing model of capitalism is it reduces the individual entrepreneur to a kind of function of incentives. The entrepreneur is responding to incentives beyond himself, and thus ends up being reduced to a kind of deterministic total model. And I believe that entrepreneurs are continually providing unexpected surprises, as they have, and that's what explains the vast creation of new wealth. You can't, and again, I think the book of the year at Freedom Fest is Superabundance, and I wrote the introduction to superabundance and helped introduce it in Washington. My Life After Capitalism is in part a guide to superabundance. Gail Pooley, co-author of Superabundance, actually provided a chapter for Life After Capitalism, and it shows that economic progress has been hundreds of times faster than has been estimated by the prevailing economic data. And beyond that, the private sector creativity and advance is just enormously greater than has been estimated in the economic data, while public sector accomplishment is radically less because the GDP assumes that every dollar of public spending is just as valuable as a dollar of private spending, that it's worth what it costs. And the fact is that public spending is mostly retards progress. It's mostly enshrines old ideas. It mostly debauches invention and creativity. So if you have a GDP figure that assumes that every dollar of public spending is worth what it costs, while you vastly underestimate the value of private sector spending as measured by these time prices. Ultimately, as money as time in my theory. But we can get to that at some other day.
Well, yeah, we could go back to Carl Menger, who introduced money and time in combination.
Yeah, he did. He had a whole book called Money.
Exactly.
And Time.
Yes.
So I'm really stealing from your Austrian heritage there.
We are glad.
But I've put it together with wealth is knowledge. We know that because the Neanderthal in his cave, as Thomas Sowell observed long ago, had all the physical material resources that we have today. The difference between our age and the Stone Age is entirely the growth of knowledge. So that's not wealth is knowledge. If wealth is knowledge, what's growth? Growth is learning. And learning is measured by learning curves, which is just all business consultancies have documented learning curves for every product. And it shows that with every doubling of total units sold, costs drop between 20 and 30%, and even more. And so those are learning curves. And that means prices are going down all the time in reality.
What does competition have to do with that?
Well, competition is a method of learning. I mean, competition tests the different experimental ventures and proves their success or their flaw, or identifies their flaws. And so competition is a crucial process of discovery. And that's why money is so crucial as a measuring stick rather than a magic wand for politicians to reward their cronies and support the past in the name of progress. So money is finally, as Menger pretty much identified, is time. Time is universal, minutes, hours, and that's really the resource. The only real scarce resource is the time we have as individual human beings. And money measures is tokenized time. Money takes all our special experiences of time and creates a token that reflects the passage of time, which is scarce in the present, but opens up into an infinite future. So it's kind of paradoxical. Money that's completely scarce is not authentic. Money has to be able to expand with the creativity of entrepreneurs. So it combines scarcity in the present with the possibility of expansion in the future. And money is time, so wealth is knowledge, growth is learning, money is time. Information is surprise, unexpected bits. And this is all really a reformulation of Austrian theory.
Coming principles of economics of 1872.
1872, right.
Yeah.
I'm right up to date.
Well, you are, and you redefined it well. Thank you very much, George, for redefining it, into bringing it into modern language, making people understand what it really means.
And showing that Shannon's great breakthrough was really an Austrian extension. Claude Shannon, who defined information.
Indeed. Well, thank you very much, George. And I'm looking forward to many more conversations and to many panels at Fest, but most importantly, to having you at the Free Market Roadshow in Europe.
All right, hope so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.